Advancing troops saw themselves as bringing civilizing order and discipline.
That which seemed forever lost was created anew by the German battalions of Kultur. The German spirit blows through the poor land, and new life rises up out of the ruins.
But that's not how it worked out, however keen the Germans were to present a caring image to their newsreel audiences. American woman Laura de Turchanovich lived in the occupied town of Suwałki near the Lithuanian border. To her, the rebuilt railways and roads weren't bridges between cultures. They were Germany's means of whipping war booty back home.
Furniture was carted daily to East Prussia. The woods were cut down, every agricultural implement taken, every woman outraged. All Poland was to be emptied and carted away, beaten into the bargain, and made to pay such terrible contributions.
Faced with a chronic labor shortage, and with little love for Slav or Russian, the German army began transporting men to the west for forced labor. The American Red Cross distributes food aid to starving Polish peasants. Reluctant to feed conquered populations, the German army became increasingly obsessed with cataloguing them. Everyone over 10 was to be documented, and nearly 2 million photo passes were issued. The Germans also began to view the East as a place of disease and started large-scale disinfecting programs. On the 17th of October 1915, the German field medical commander ordered that all railway crossings on the eastern border be sealed off. Everyone crossing the frontier had to be deloused before setting foot on German soil. Winter 1915. The racial war of Teuton versus Slav neared its peak. German and Austro-Hungarian forces moved south to destroy Serbia. This would win control of the Balkans, final revenge for the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And they had a new ally, Bulgaria, tempted by Germany's military muscle and certain this was the winning side. The bait dangled before Bulgarian leader Ferdinand was the promise of vast swathes of Serbia. Born in Vienna, Ferdinand had few sympathies for his Slav neighbors.
The purpose of my life is the destruction of Serbia.
On the 6th of October 1915, a joint German-Austro-Hungarian force invaded Serbia, taking the capital in just 2 days. The Bulgarian army then entered from the southeast. The Serbs' only way out of their country was into Albania, but that lay across treacherous mountain ranges. As their enemies' claws closed around them, the Serbian army slipped away, and the people fled with them. Serbian photographer Risto Marjanović documented his nation's exodus. One of the refugees was 12-year-old Katarina Kostic.
We spent the nights in the open, beside a fire, which would scorch one side of your body while the other froze. One morning, a woman refugee woke up and happily announced that she'd had something soft beneath her head that night. To our horror, the soft thing turned out to be a human corpse.
One soldier threw away his rifle to carry an old woman who had collapsed. She gestured towards the sound of the enemy closing in and handed him back his weapon. They halted here, on the Field of Blackbirds, in Kosovo. The Serb nation drew breath while its leaders met in the town of Prizren. The choices were grim: battle it out, surrender, or survive to fight another day. Journalist Gordon Smith watched the debate inside the town's seminary.
The final councils did not last long. On November the 24th, the supreme resolution was taken. The king, army, and government would refuse to treat with the enemy and would leave for Albania.
Hundreds of thousands of troops and civilians set off into the mountains. Their plan: to reach the Mediterranean and sail to safety. This epic retreat shaped modern Serbian self-perception, taking its place in national myth alongside the 1389 defeat by the Turks on the same Field of Blackbirds. Still an open wound today. A Serbian film, directed by a veteran of the march, reconstructed its agony.
The further we went, the worse it got. You didn't hear the usual: men swearing, officers yelling orders. This huge funeral procession of the state of Serbia endured the pain in silence. Who tramped behind me? Who in front? Where was my company? All too soon we fell apart. Now it was every man for himself.
We staggered up mountains, then clambered down, avoiding quagmires from which the hands reached out of poor people who'd got stuck. We stumbled, running out of strength, but could not turn back. We had to move on.
The survivors gathered on the island of Corfu. Exhaustion, starvation, and disease continued to take their toll. Half the army, over 200,000 men, had died on the march. No one knows how many civilians. But Serbia's death rate was the highest of the First World War. There was no question who was winning the titanic struggle of Teuton versus Slav. The Central Powers were now the masters of the Eastern Front. Columns of Russian prisoners became a familiar sight.
The street was full of them, thousands, driven along like dogs, taunted, beaten if they fell down, kicked until they either got up or lay still, forever.
Kaiser Wilhelm even suggested that 90,000 Russian prisoners be driven onto a barren peninsula along the Baltic shore and starved to death. The German and Austro-Hungarian high commands meet in the Tyrol. But behind the mutual congratulation, the partnership is rotten to the core. Practicing his handshake, Archduke Frederick, the Austrian commander-in-chief, waits to meet one of the world's most powerful men, the German Kaiser. War has exposed their differences, not bound them closer. Germany thought the Austro-Hungarian Empire a shambles. She wondered whether to take the whole lot into the German Reich. Austria-Hungary found Germany arrogant and domineering. The Austrian Chief of Staff, on the left, called the Germans our secret enemies. In time, the Austrians would even send secret peace feelers to the Allies. But they could never break away from Germany. It was alliances on both sides that would keep the war going. In the next episode of the First World War, the horrors of Verdun and the Somme, as both sides try to break the deadlock on the Western Front.